The morning of September 11, 2001, began like any other. As the sun rose over New York City, its golden rays reflected off the World Trade Center's Twin Towers, two colossal pillars of American economic power and resilience. But as the city awoke and the day unfolded, it became clear that this would be a day unlike any other, a day that would forever change the course of history.
It will be on display here in City Hall in November of this twins. One is smaller than the other now because of a television antenna on the top. Now the World Trade Center is more than just the Twin Towers. It's actually 7 buildings combined.
New York City was alive, with its usual energy. On that fateful Tuesday morning, thousands of workers made their way to their offices in the World Trade Center, unaware of the terror that was about to unfold. The World Trade Center complex, an iconic symbol of America's financial prowess, was home to tens of thousands of workers, businesses, and visitors. But beneath the surface of this ordinary day, a plot of unimaginable horror was already in motion. In the early hours of the morning, 19 terrorists affiliated with the extremist group Al-Qaeda began their mission. They boarded 4 commercial flights, 2 from American Airlines and 2 from United Airlines, knowing that these planes, full of innocent passengers, would soon become weapons of mass destruction. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11, hijacked by 5 terrorists, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. The CNN Center right now is just beginning to work on this story.
The plane, a Boeing 767, was traveling at approximately 466 miles per hour when it struck floors 93 through 99. An explosion rocked the tower, sending flames and debris hurtling down to the streets below. Hundreds of people were killed instantly, and many more were trapped in the upper floors, cut off from any possible escape. In the streets below, chaos erupted. People gazed upward, in shock and disbelief as the tower burned. Emergency responders, some of the bravest New Yorkers, rushed to the scene, their instincts driving them into the heart of the danger. Inside the tower, the situation was dire. Stairwells were severed by the impact, and thick smoke began to fill the building, making it nearly impossible to breathe. Those trapped above the impact zone desperately sought refuge, moving higher and higher, while others made heart-wrenching phone calls to loved ones, knowing they might never see them again.
It's really exciting for me to be here. I want to thank Ms. Daniels for being a teacher. I want to thank Wynn for being a principal. And I want to thank you all for practicing reading so much. It's really important.
And this morning we do have a lesson that we will read with you, read for you.
Good.
And it's lesson 60 of our SRA reading program, direct instruction.
I know very well where that came from.
Okay. Are you ready, my butterflies? Yes. LLP position, eyes on me, 1, 2, 3. Let's pick your reader up from under your seat. Open your book up to lesson 60 on page 153.
just 17 minutes after the first attack. At 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower. The world watched in horror as the second plane struck the building, confirming the worst fears. This was no accident. It was a coordinated attack on American soil.
When the second tower got hit, that was a terrifying moment. Because now you realize this is no accident, this is intentional, and that changes your whole perception of what you're dealing with now. One of my thoughts was going through my head is stay calm. You have to make, I knew I was going to be having to make some very serious decisions involving people's lives, which is my job, which I'm trained for. I mean, they trained very well for on the fire department. And I wanted to make it with as clear a head as I could. So I had to avoid that little panicky thing that you go through at first. I was climbing the stairs in the North Tower, and our orders were to report to the 23rd floor. So I'm walking around the floor, I'm looking for this chief I'm supposed to report to. And I hear chatter. I hear people talking. And of course, I'm curious, nobody's supposed to be there. And I open the doorway and there's two people inside the stairway. It was an injured secretary, a woman, and her boss stayed with her. This is an incredibly heroic guy. I wish I could remember his name. But he stayed and trying to get his injured secretary out of the building. And they were in stairway C. No, they were alone. There was nobody else in stairway C, and I was worried about them. So I told them, go to stairway B. The fire department's in stairway B. They will help you. And they were frozen. They couldn't move. They just froze. And then I yelled at them. I feel bad, but I yelled at them. I just, that's stairway B. I'm not going to tell you again, like that. But I had to do it, because I had to startle them to get them out of that. They were in like a funk, it was so. And finally, they listened to me. They went over to stairway B. And they survived. They got out. That was good.
The impact was catastrophic, hitting the South Tower between floors 77 and 85. The resulting explosion sent a massive fireball through the building, with debris raining down on the streets below.
Explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Right, oh my God, another plane has just hit. It hit another building, flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. My God, it's right in the middle of the building.
As the South Tower burned, the scale of the tragedy began to sink in. Thousands of people were now trapped in both towers. The city was gripped by fear and confusion. The scenes of people running from the disaster zone, covered in ash and debris, became iconic images of that tragic day. But as New York struggled to comprehend what was happening, the terror spread beyond the city. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, igniting a massive fire that consumed the west side of the building. The Pentagon, a symbol of America's military might, was now under attack. The loss of life was severe. 125 military personnel and civilians were killed, along with all 64 passengers on board the flight. As the Pentagon burned, news of the attacks spread across the country, leaving Americans in shock and disbelief. But the horror was not yet over. At 10:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93, the fourth hijacked plane, crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The passengers on board, having learned of the other attacks, heroically fought back against the hijackers, preventing the plane from reaching its intended target, the White House. Their bravery and sacrifice saved countless lives, but all 44 people on board perished. At 9:59 a.m., less than an hour after it was struck, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed.
The police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
The building, weakened by the impact and the intense fires that were fueled by jet fuel, gave way in a massive implosion. The sight of the tower collapsing, sending a cloud of dust and debris billowing through the streets of Lower Manhattan, was a moment of pure devastation. But the nightmare was not yet over. At 10:28 a.m., the North Tower, the first to be struck, also collapsed. In just a few seconds, 110 stories crumbled to the ground, taking with them thousands of lives and the hopes and dreams of countless families. The skyline of New York City, once dominated by the Twin Towers, was now marked by a massive plume of smoke and ash. The immediate aftermath of the attacks was a scene of utter devastation. The streets of Lower Manhattan were covered in a thick layer of ash, turning the day into night. Thousands of people were missing, trapped beneath the rubble, while survivors stumbled through the wreckage, dazed and traumatized. Emergency responders, many of whom had rushed into the towers to save lives, were now among the missing.
Fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil.
As the news spread across the country and the world, the impact of the attacks became painfully clear. Nearly 3,000 people had lost their lives, including 343 firefighters, 60 police officers, and 8 paramedics. The victims were not just Americans, but citizens of over 90 countries. In the days and weeks following the attacks, the world responded with an outpouring of grief, support, and solidarity. Memorials and vigils were held in cities across the globe as people came together to mourn the lives lost and to stand in unity against the forces of terror. The phrase, "never forget," became a rallying cry, a reminder of the shared humanity that binds us all together, even in the face of such unimaginable evil. In the United States, the attacks led to profound changes in national security and foreign policy. The government launched the War on Terror, beginning with the invasion of Afghanistan to dismantle al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban from power. The attacks also prompted the creation of the Department of Homeland Security and the implementation of the U.S. Patriot Act, reshaping the nation's approach to security and civil liberties. In New York, the site of the World Trade Center has been transformed into a place of remembrance and reflection. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum honors the nearly 3,000 victims of the attacks and countless others who have suffered as a result. The new One World Trade Center, standing tall, where the Twin Towers once were, symbolizes resilience and renewal, a beacon of hope rising from the ashes.
Curious about why Texas was the last state to free its enslaved people? Check out this video to learn the fascinating history behind Juneteenth and the unique circumstances that delayed emancipation in the Lone Star State.